The one big, beautiful bill promoted by Trump recently passed a crucial vote, and in it is a special account that bears the president's name. On this episode of StewardShift, I'll unravel the details and help you decide if this is something that your family should participate in.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This is StewardShift, a show that gives you the tools you need to get the most of your best resources. Your money, your mind, your body, your time.
It's already been voted by Congress. It's written into law. Trump accounts are here to stay. By the way, I need you to stay tuned in to the end of the show as I show you the potential numbers, the actual dollar amounts that your child could have as they reach retirement age with these Trump accounts. I'm going to tip my hand just a little bit because you need to know this is in the 8 figures. You do not want to miss this. But before we get there, here are just some philosophies of how to build wealth. There are 2 things that lead to long-term generational wealth creation. It is not having a savings account. You're not going to generate generational wealth with a savings account with the very weak 0.0 something percent interest that these big banks are offering nowadays. And even with a high yield savings account, and I definitely have a couple of those, but that's not the purpose of even high yield savings accounts. You're not going to generate long-term wealth with that. It's not even having a high income. Having a high income is very important, as is very obvious. But if you have high expenses along with that high income, then you're not going to generate generational wealth. But there are 2 things that you just absolutely need if you live in the United States of America in order to generate long-term generational wealth. Number 1 is home ownership. This is one of the best tools, but this episode is not about that. It's about number 2, stock market participation. And the earlier you participate in both of these vehicles, the better you will be, because now your money is taking advantage of compounded interest. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about these Trump accounts, what it is, how to handle contributions as well as distributions. And like I said, I'm going to share the real numbers, possibilities for what your child can achieve in terms of dollar amount if and when they participate in this program. So what is this? Like, what are the Trump accounts? I know you've heard it. I heard about it. I'm just going to share a little bit in detail, just a little bit with you. This is actually a pilot program that is specifically for all children born in the years 2025 through 2028. They may expand this at some point. We don't know. But as of right now, this is who it's for. The child has to be, of course, a U.S. citizen with a social security number. And if they have those 2 things, then they will be eligible to receive $1,000 at birth in a federal deposit into this Trump account. Now, if your child was born in 2025, or if they're born already, they're not eligible just yet to receive it. The receiving of the funding actually starts on July 4th, 2026. So we have a little less than a year before we get to that date. But once that happens, all eligible children born within those years will be eligible to receive those $1,000. Now, if you do have a child who's under the age of 18, starting on that same date, July 4th, 2026, and they were born before the year 2025, they're not eligible for the full pilot program, but they can voluntarily open up a Trump account and they will not be eligible for the $1,000, right? But you can open it up and put money into it. This is an investment vehicle. This Trump account will be invested in low-cost stock index funds, which essentially mirror other index funds such as the S&P 500 is one of the most popular, most famous funds, index funds out there. So that's essentially what it is. It'll mirror the S&P 500 or other funds if they allow you to pick and choose what those funds are. These are invested in index funds. This is essentially, and this is why I love this description that someone described it as, this is an IRA for kids, an individual retirement account for kids, as we'll see as we unfold the details for it. So let's talk a little bit about the contributions, and then we'll get into the distributions. That's the fun part as you collect the money. But as you put money in, here's how it can be contributed to. It can be from a parent, a family member, a grandparent, even the child themselves can contribute to this Trump account up to the limit is $5,000 per year. And again, that starts on July the 4th, 2026. Up to $5,000 per year. That's actually not bad. That's pretty good. Now, one of the downsides, and I wouldn't call it a downside, but just one of the things that could be assumed would be in there, but actually is not part of this account. These are not tax deductible contributions to this account before the age of 18. If you contribute to this account from age 0 to age 18, those contributions are not tax deductible as other contributions to IRAs and other kinds of things are. So this is not tax sheltered before the age of 18. But when the child does turn 18, when they become a full-blown adult, at least in the eyes of the law, that account does follow the traditional IRA rules, individual retirement account rules. And if you know anything about IRAs, the contributions to those up until a certain limit are tax deductible. That is a generalization that does depend on your income level, depends on other factors such as your participation in your employer-sponsored retirement plan, as well as other things. But generally speaking, when the child turns 18, the contributions to the Trump account will be tax deductible. Here are a couple of other special things about this account. Employers can also contribute up to $2,500 per year to this Trump account. Now, this could either be directly to the child or with the child. If the child is an employee, the employers will have the option of doing that. Now, this is very early. We don't know. Matter of fact, the accounts aren't even opened up or anything like that. So we don't know what employers will or will not participate in this, but this will be an additional draw for the employer to offer a benefit to those employees, but not just for the employee in terms of the child before they turn 18 or afterwards, but for dependent children of an employee. They'll be eligible to contribute to those Trump accounts for a dependent child as well. One more thing about the employer contributions to those Trump accounts is not yet clear as to whether or not that $2,500 eligibility for employers will count towards the $5,000 limit for those Trump accounts per year. We don't know. So let's just stay tuned until more details come out about that. One more thing that is pretty mind-blowing about the rules surrounding these Trump accounts. So for cities, states, for tribal governments, if you happen to be a Native American, and also for tax-exempt organizations, they'll be able to contribute unlimited funds to these Trump accounts. Now, it doesn't seem like these will be unlimited for a certain individual. You'll be able to pinpoint. So these will be generalities for geographic areas or for birth years or for certain beneficiaries, but this will be a group thing, not just for individuals. But that's pretty cool. That's something that cities or states or whoever else can make a decision on for certain groups of people that are within their constituents. So those are the contribution rules, but let's talk a little bit about the distribution for this. It should be pretty obvious, but if it's not, that the distributions or the withdrawals from these accounts cannot be made before the age of 18. And that's something that I actually like about this. It forces us to wait, to play the waiting game, give that money time to let compounded interest do its work. But again, no distributions or withdrawals before the age of 18. Now, when your child does turn 18, there will be certain categories for penalty-free withdrawals. That would be for very specific things such as first home purchases up to, it seems like $10,000 amount. Also for any education after high school. And that seems to be an unlimited amount. But if there's a birth or the adoption of the first child, that can be used up to $5,000 as well as certain emergencies. But generally speaking, once your child turns 18, it cannot be used just for any and everything that they want to use it for. Now, after age 18, but before age 59 and a half, if you have any withdrawals or distributions from the Trump accounts, those will be taxed as regular income, as well as a 10% early withdrawal tax penalty on those funds. So for instance, if your child, who will be an adult at that time, wants to purchase a car, it doesn't matter if they believe that purchasing the car is an emergency in their specific situation, because the government does not deem that as an emergency. If they purchase that car from withdrawals from the Trump account, then that money will be eligible as soon as it hits your account, will be eligible for income tax as well as a 10% early withdrawal penalty on those funds. But after the age of 59 and a half, that's technically when you can retire, or your technically retirement age in America. That's when you can withdraw that money penalty free. So there's no 10% early withdrawal tax or penalty, but it will still be eligible for income tax. So just be aware of that. But those are just regular retirement account rules. There's nothing special about that, nothing abnormal. That's a regular thing. So for me, the best case scenario is that this money from the Trump account, whether you decide to contribute to it yourself or just take the $1,000 and allow that to grow. But if it were up to me, if I had a Trump account, I would let this money sit there until I reach retirement age. And that's not dependent on whether or not I contribute to it or I just take the $1,000 and just let it sit there. It doesn't matter in my book. I'm letting it sit there so that compounding interest can do its work from the time that I'm born until the time I retire. That's exactly what I'm doing. But let me know in the comments, what would you do with this money? Would you use it after the age of 18 or before you turn 59 and a half? What would you do with this money after you're eligible to receive distributions from it? So here's some possibilities for this Trump account. Now I'm going to give you some real life numbers, and these numbers are assuming a 10% annual return. And if you know anything about the stock market, especially the S&P 500, which are the 500 largest companies in America, they average during any 30-year span between 10 and 12% return on investment. So I'm looking at the low end of that. I'm not going to assume a 12% return, which I think I could, but let's just assume a 10% annual return on this investment. If you took this $1,000 when your child was born, age 0, until they turn 18 years old, with no additional contributions on an annual basis, that original $1,000 will now grow to over $6,000. You're not doing anything else. You're just using the power of compounding interest. Like, that's mind blowing. That's amazing. Now, it really isn't a lot of money if you think about it. I mean, the growth is amazing, but $6,000 nowadays really isn't going to get you very, very far. So let's just take it a step further. If you took that $1,000 at your child's birth and invested it until they were 18 years old, but you maximize the contributions, meaning that as of right now, there's a contribution limit of $5,000 that may grow in the future. But as of right now, we're just going to take these numbers at face value, and you max that out every single year, meaning that on an average 12-month span, every single month, you're contributing $467 per month. That original $1,000 invested with those monthly contributions every single month, up to $5,000 per year, will now grow to over $250,000. That's super amazing. Like, a lot better than $6,000. $6,000 and then the $250,000, but still not a whole lot considering the grand scheme. Let me just push it just a little bit further. If you took that $1,000 at your child's birth and they kept that invested until they were 67 years old, that's the normal age for retirement with full benefits in this country as of right now, but they contributed nothing else. You didn't contribute anything else, and they didn't contribute anything else after the age of 18. Then that original $1,000 will grow to almost $800,000. You did nothing else for it. You just let it sit there from birth until age 67. That's a lot of money. I'm going to push it one more time. If you took that $1,000 and invested it at birth, at your child's birth, and they kept it in there until age 67 years old, but they also maximized the contributions for that Trump account, then instead of almost $800,000, they'll end up with over $40 million. Mind blown. Amazing. Like, your kid is set. There's nothing else they have to do. And I would dare say, and I'm not suggesting this, but I would dare say that they wouldn't even have to invest in any other retirement account or it. Like, they're set. They can do anything else with that money. That's a whole lot of money. But the trick is starting early. In all of these scenarios, starting early is the common denominator there. Whether you don't contribute anything else additional or whether you max out the contribution, starting early allows the power of compounded interest to work. Albert Einstein said that compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Now, Albert Einstein did a lot of amazing things, especially with physics and otherwise. And if he was surprised, like just blown away with the power of compounded interest, we should be too. It's amazing what this can do if you allow the compounded interest to work. So the question is, hey, should I invest in the Trump account? I don't see a reason why you should not. It's law. Congress has passed it. This should be and will be an advantage to the American people. Invest in it as early as you possibly can.